David, on this? What do you sit?
I'm probably not quite sure what the question is, but I'll try and answer it anyway. But I think it's a kind of financial imperative for us to license territory by territory, simply because the only way to raise the financing for films from independent distributors is if you give them the exclusive rights to their territory and you protect their interests in that territory. I think from the point of view of going about how we make our films and how we distribute them, you obviously have to be sensitive to territorial, cultural differences, whether it's practical things like holidays and when you release a picture, which is critically important, or simply tastes. Different countries have different tastes, whether it's for actors or kinds of movies. You have to be aware of all of those kinds of things. I mean, obviously, with an unusual example like Twilight, we look at it in a much more global way, and we do behave much more like a studio in terms of largely ignoring the territorial boundaries in terms of how we're trying to put across promotions, soundtrack, licensing and merchandising, and we have a lot of global deals which are, to use P's word, transnational or international, and they don't know any boundaries. But I think still, if you want to exploit a film really successfully, you have to be still very acutely sensitive to local issues. And sometimes the studios will ignore those because they want a day-and-date release. They want to go out everywhere at the same time in order to protect themselves from piracy, which is, of course, in itself a major problem. And you have to weigh up those different imperatives. At the same time, I mean, we're grappling now. We're releasing the next Twilight movie in our wisdom, because the Americans don't give a toss about soccer. We're releasing our movie at the end of June, and we had months and months of discussion pointing out the rest of the world is going to be obsessed with the World Cup, but we are releasing our film worldwide in the middle of the World Cup, and secretly hoping that none of the major European teams particularly get through to the finals, because we're hoping that sort of Indonesia and I don't know where else will somehow miraculously get through, because it's such a major distraction. However, at the same time, we made the decision that the demographic of the films is largely, very, very largely female, who are less obsessed with football. But nevertheless, each territory is finessing its own market and really second-guessing where their team is going to be at what stage of the World Cup as to when they're going to release the film. Of course, our UK distributors are convinced we're going to get through to the final. So that's creating more of an issue.
Thank you. Carl, Global Day and Date, Future or Armageddon in a minute?
For the films that I have on my slate at the moment, I think it's all about localization and the kind of thing that David was saying. Although, having said that, we've recently picked up another documentary from Sundance, which is a sort of another kind of issue documentary, and I think the producers and the people around it would probably love to stage some kind of day and date type release. This is a movie called Countdown to Zero, about the desire, at least, to reduce nukes to nothing. So there is the potential there to do that. It's on a very, very different scale to the kind of films that David is handling. The challenges are clearly enormous, and I would suspect it's a whole lot easier for the kind of distributors that David works with than the ones that would be buying this film from me to do. But it's something that certainly, I'll be discussing with the producers and the kind of activist bodies that are very supportive and part of this campaign.
Thank you. We started late, but on my stopwatch, we've used up our allotted 45 minutes. Fiona, I'm looking to you to decide whether you want to allow a question or two, or in which case, thank you very much to all. And
Thank you.